Hi guys, I'm Christine. Since it's been so long since I've really posted on my channel, I thought I would do a video that gives you a little bit more information about me as a person. So today we're going to be doing 15 readerly things about me, or basically 15 reading habits that I have. Number 1, I only read one book at a time. I can't be reading a physical book while also listening to a different audiobook. I can't be reading 2 different physical books at the same time. Any combination of books, I can't handle more than one at a time. Also, when I do my reviews, I can't move on to a new book until I've completely finished my review, which is why, while I can read fast, it takes me sometimes really a long time to do my review. If I need to think about it for a couple days, or if I don't have a chance to film or write out my review, it can take me a little bit longer. So while it doesn't take me long to read the physical book itself, my reviews take me a little longer, so I have wait periods in between, and I can't mix up plot lines with other plot lines. I just can't handle another book. Number 2, I do not read with my glasses on. My glasses are for distance, so it can get quite uncomfortable if I have them on while I'm reading, so I generally just take them off. Number 3, looking at my shelves, you can probably tell this one. My favorite genre is young adult romantic fantasy. I mean, just look at what I've read in the past, look at my books on my shelf. It's my favorite genre, it's my go-to genre, it's the genre I enjoy the most. Now, while I do read other genres, there's just something about it that I'm constantly drawn to. I'll probably keep on reading until I am old and gray. Young adult romantic fantasy. The book that really turned me into a reader was In the Hand of the Goddess by Tamora Pierce. This is the second book in the Song of the Lioness Quartet. And funny story, when I first read In the Hand of the Goddess, I just saw the picture of the cover, and I saw the synopsis, I read it, and I was like, "Ooh, this sounds good." So I brought it home, read it. I remember while I was reading it that some of the things in there didn't really make sense, and it wasn't until after I'd completely finished the book, fallen in love with it, that I realized it was the second book in the series. So of course I had to go back and get the first book in the series. I was about, I want to say 12 or 13 at the time. I think it was around 12. And after I read that first book, every single time I went to Chapters, or I went to the bookstore after that, or at a Scholastic book fair, I got my parents to buy me the next book in my Magic Book series. And that is how I have grown my Tamora Pierce collection. When I like to read, I like to lie down on my bed or the couch. I just, in general, like reading laying down. I flip back and forth from side to side when one side gets numb or I can't hold the book on that side anymore, so I toss and turn a lot, but I don't know. I can sit up, and I do sit up sometimes when I'm reading if my back hurts or whatever because I've been laying in bed reading too long, but my preferred position is laying down in bed where I'm comfortable. Number 6. When I read, I can go into hyperfocus and literally cut out the outside world. So if you don't know this about me already, I was diagnosed as an adult with ADD. And part of that is where I can go into a hyperfocus state, and literally all I can focus on is what I'm doing at that time, which for me turns out to generally be when I'm reading. So I will literally be reading a book. I will not be able to hear the outside world, including my parents or my siblings yelling my name from a couple feet away. It normally takes them about 3 or 4 times of yelling my name before I'll actually, angrily, I will admit, look up and answer them. It does help when I'm trying to get a book finished though. Number 7. When I was 11 years old, I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for the first time, and I was so engrossed my mother let me read through supper. I was about 11, and one of the cool girls in my class, I was not cool, by the way, one of the cool girls in class had done a book report on this crazy book called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So later that day, when it was at the Scholastic book, I was at the Scholastic book fair, I know this kind of dates me because apparently they don't do book fairs anymore, but I was at a book fair with my mother and I saw the book that the cool girl had done for her review, and I begged my mother to buy it for me. She did buy it for me. I immediately went home, crawled into bed, and started reading. When she came to grab me at supper, she saw how engrossed I was, and it wasn't normal for her to let me do this, but she let me read through supper, and I came out, I remember, around 7 or 8 p.m. I finally emerged from the room after having finished the book in one sitting, and I was in love. Thus my love affair for Harry Potter started. Number 8. Most of the books I own are written by women. I know most of the YA fantasy genre tends to be written by women, but for some reason I always seem to gravitate anyways. I prefer books. My favorite books are all written by female authors, with the exception of the Arc of the Scythe series by Neil Shusterman. For some reason I just found myself appreciating the books more that are written by women. This isn't to say that I'm not open to reading books by young adult male authors. It's just I haven't found any that I've really fallen in love with yet. Feel free to recommend me some down below, and I will definitely check them out. Number 9. I prefer physical books over ebooks. Based on my shelves, which are too deep and stuffed to the brim, you can tell that I love my physical books. Now, I have been building up my ebook collection recently because I'm kind of on a book buying ban. I've just not been trying to buy as many lately. I have been buying some. I will not say that I'm not, but I'm trying to not buy as many. So I've been buying more ebooks recently when they're cheap, and it's something that I've been wanting to read for a while. So while I don't love ebooks, I do read them. But I definitely prefer my physical copies. There's just something about holding on to a physical book, getting the ink on your fingerprints, and the smell of them. It's just magical for me. Number 10. I write my reviews in point form while I'm reading the book and after consolidate it into a full review. So I'm sure probably a lot of people do this, but this is only something that I've gotten into recently. I always now, when I'm reading a physical book or an ebook, I will keep my iPad near me so I can write down notes as I'm reading. I find it's a lot better for me this way. I used to just read it all and then write my review, but some of the smaller details tend to get lost along the way when I do it that way. So I've really grown to appreciate doing it as I'm reading the book. I remember more of the details, I remember linking things together. It's a lot easier for me. Number 11, I do not dog ear, write in, or highlight any of my books. To me, this is sacrilege. I am one of those perfectionists who loves having her books in perfect. You can still tell that they're used. Like some of my Magic books series, my Tamora Pierce books, I have read so many times that you can tell they're definitely worn, but I do like my books being in pristine condition. So therefore, I will never ever, and I will kill anybody who borrows my books and does dog ear, write in, or highlight in them. Number 12 kind of goes with number 11. I do not like reading with the dust covers on my hardbacks. I always take them off when I'm starting the book. You can tell the books I'm reading by I leave them laying around naked around the house because, and those books are mine. Generally most of the books are mine anyways because I'm the only one who leaves them laying around the house. But I don't like reading with the dust covers on. Again, I like to keep them in pristine condition, and I don't want them getting torn or bent or anything. And to me it's a lot easier. The book can get so slippery while you're reading with the dust cover on. I feel like I get a better grip on the book when the dust cover isn't on. I also memorize, this kind of goes with, kind of but doesn't. I don't use bookmarks either because I tend to memorize the pages, so I won't use the flaps as a bookmark. So I memorize my page numbers and then I go back to reading it later. So another weird quirk of mine. Number 13, I preferred hard copies over paperbacks. This is something I've gotten into more recently as well. I've always liked hard copies, but paperbacks tend to be cheaper, and for a while there I was all about getting the books for the cheapest price, so I do have quite a few paperbacks, but I definitely prefer the hard copies of the books. I love the dust covers and all the pretty art on there, and then I love seeing what they do to the naked book underneath. What color is it? Is there anything on it? Like Saba Tahir's has her initials in it, and I love seeing the spines, and I just love the weighty feeling of a hardcover book. So I definitely do, I do get some paperbacks, and some series only are available in paperback, which I'm perfectly fine with. All of my mangas are only in paperback, none of them come in hardcover form. So I'm not adverse to paperbacks per se, I just prefer my hard copies. Number 14, I have multiple copies of my favorite books. Right now that's my Tamora Pierce series. I have the Immortal series, I have 2 copies because they have different covers. I want to get the paperback copies of the Witchland series. I also want the paperback copies of An Ember in the Ashes series. All of my favorite series I want to get multiple copies and foreign editions of. I'm sure any bibliophile will tell you that they have multiple copies of their favorite books. We just can't help it. Tamora Pierce has been around since the 80s. She's had so many different cover changes, and I want them all. I want them all. I gotta have them all. It's like Pokemon, but for books. And last but not least, number 15. On my bucket list is to meet Tamora Pierce and to get her to sign like all of my 20 or so books of hers that I have. She was the author that inspired me to become a reader. I love all of her books. I just have such a deep love for her and her books that she is my all-time favorite author. I've never got the chance to meet her. I haven't seen her come up to Canada or anywhere near Toronto yet, so I keep an eye out constantly. I check her page, but I would really love to meet her in person. She's such a lovely person, and get her to sign my books, and it's gonna happen. I'm gonna make it happen one day. I just don't know when. And if you have met her, I am extremely jealous right now, and you need to tell me about it down in the comments down below. And there we go! Now you know a little bit more about me and my reading habits. I would love to hear about some of your reading quirks down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!